The week of his death, more than 1 million people came to pay their last respects. Special transport was organized. There were more than 800 articles in the newspapers. However, this saint was always very humble and refused any form of admiration. He healed thousands of sick people and performed extraordinary miracles. Welcome to the Willem Davrek channel. This week I am going to talk to you about a very great saint. However, he was not really tall because he was barely 1.50 meters tall. This is Saint André Bessette. You will discover the life of this exceptional man, who, although very well known during his lifetime, has largely fallen into oblivion. He had a special devotion to Saint Joseph. And you will discover a ritual that you can also use at home to cure your ailments. But don't think that it's a magic formula that allows you to act effortlessly. To better understand his thoughts, here is one of his quotes full of wisdom. It's surprising. I'm often asked for healings, but very rarely for humility and faith. Yet, this is the most important thing. Before starting, I wanted to introduce you to a book that was very useful to me in writing this video. It is At the Heart of Miraculous Healings and Their Secrets. It is a book written by the Mirabilis Committee. If you are a regular on this channel, you know that I have already presented various books from this committee to you, and that they are always very interesting and well documented. This book is an anthology which reports a large number of healings carried out by the saints during their lifetime. There are both well-known saints and others less so, but you will always be amazed by these stories, and you may discover facts that you did not suspect. The book is available everywhere, in bookstores, at Fnac, on Amazon, and other similar sites. I will leave you in the pinned comment and in the description the references to obtain it. In any case, a big thank you to this sponsor because the situation of the channel is always delicate and these partnerships allow me to continue despite the difficulties. I also take this opportunity to thank all the people who support me with donations. Without you, nothing will be possible. I am very sensitive to your generosity. A huge thank you. Alfred Bessette, who would become the future Saint André, was born on August 9, 1845, in Saint-Grégoire-le-Grand, a village located 40 kilometers southeast of Montreal in Quebec. He is the eighth in a family of 13 children, 4 of whom died at a young age. The family is poor. His father is a lumberjack, and his mother takes care of the children and the house. From a very young age, he was hit by harsh trials. His father died when he was crushed by a tree when Alfred was only 9 years old. Faced with this tragedy, his mother found comfort by listening to the preaching of a priest, discussing devotion to Saint Joseph. Speaking of this time, Saint André will say that although life was terribly difficult, his mother always smiled. As he was very frail and had poor health, his mother was very affectionate with him. Although still very young, Alfred is very pious, and everyone is surprised to see him pray so often. But fate will persist, and when he is only 12 years old, his mother succumbs to tuberculosis, and he finds himself an orphan. This misfortune is difficult to bear because his mother was so gentle with him. It is undoubtedly to honor his memory that he too will have a great devotion to Saint Joseph. Alfred Bessette is then taken in by an aunt. Too poor, he does not go to school, yet he does not miss catechism, and the priest who follows him is amazed at his piety. Saint André Bessette will reveal very little about this period of his life. It's pretty easy to understand why. In fact, he never spoke ill of anyone, and most certainly, during this phase of his existence, he must have suffered from bullying and mockery. He was in fact very small, frail, and in fragile health. You know how some teenagers are. Moreover, he lived in poverty and experienced great moments of solitude, but no one heard him complain. He was sometimes found kneeling in prayer, with his arms crossed in front of a crucifix in a small corner of the barn. He always remained helpful and courageous in the most difficult jobs. At 18, he went to the United States and worked in the cotton mills of New England. He stayed there for 4 years, but his health was so fragile that he could not continue and returned home. Alfred then does different odd jobs without finding something that really suits him. He then stayed with an uncle in Saint-Césaire and met a priest named André Provençal. Alfred is so enthusiastic about this abbot that he spends all his free time at the church. Here again, Saint André is very discreet about what he will experience, but he will still say he will receive very great graces. From one day to the next, his behavior changes, whereas until then he was very shy and dared to speak to almost no one. He addresses the parishioners with great gentleness and invites them to pray more to Saint Joseph. But this only earns him contempt, and he is still made fun of, especially because of his small size. Some nickname him the madman because of his devotion to God. This greatly upsets Abbot Provençal. He meets Alfred and sees his daily piety. He notices his efforts to always be good despite the wickedness shown towards him. The abbot feels that this young man has a true vocation, but he also knows that he is poorly educated and has almost never been to school, cannot therefore become a priest. Fortunately, a new congregation has been established in Montreal, and he also admits lay brothers. As a reminder, a lay brother is a lay person who devotes himself more to material tasks of manual work, as opposed to choir monks who are assigned to spiritual tasks. However, Father André Provençal is a little worried. He knows that Alfred's fragile health could be detrimental to him, and his lack of education will not help either. So he wrote him a magnificent letter of recommendation in which he wrote, "I am sending you a saint." Alfred Bessette therefore entered the novitiate on November 22, 1870, and received, upon taking the habit, the name Brother André, in honor of his protector Father André Provençal. Brother André is an excellent novice, very obedient, and never reluctant to take on the task. On the contrary, he redoubled his efforts and dedication to forget his poor health and avoid being fired. The Father Master has nothing to reproach him for, but the superiors fear that he will soon become a burden for the young community, which has no use for sick religious. The council therefore refused him vows on January 8, 1872. This was terrible news for Brother André. A smallpox epidemic then breaks out and scares everyone. André, who is so sensitive to Saint Joseph, immediately suggests doing a procession with the statue of Saint Joseph. The superior agrees. 2 days later, the epidemic was overcome. Despite this, Brother André is still expected to leave the premises. Something unexpected will then happen. The Bishop of Montreal plans to visit the congregation. To everyone's surprise, he grants an interview to Brother André, who opens his soul to him and receives in exchange the promise that the community will keep him. And in fact, the council reversed its decision a few days later. If this young man becomes incapable of working, he will at least know how to pray very well, concludes the Father Master. At the beginning of the year 1872, a French priest named Father Hupier arrived. He is responsible for the lay brothers. The religious is a model of penance, gentleness, and charity. He immediately understands that Brother André is an exceptional being. While for a good part of his life Brother André was taken for an imbecile or crazy and was made fun of, this time that is not the case. Father Hupier reassures him that his love for God and his devotion to Saint Joseph are not defects but, On the contrary, blessings. He gives him valuable advice that the young religious will never forget. He reassures him about his spiritual life and urges him to give himself totally, to be always and everything absolutely submitted to the will of God. It's a joy for Brother André. Someone finally understands him. Usually the answer is that God's will is slavery and that it's better to be free. Except that André sees that those who call themselves free are in fact slaves to their instincts, their desires, their passions, and that there is no freedom there. Once again, while Brother André is happy to have found support, it is short-lived. Father Hupier died on July 4, 1873. However, the day after his death, Brother André saw him in a dream, where he asked him a question: "What prayer could I pray that will be most pleasing to the good Lord?" Father Hupier then begins to recite the Our Father. When he says the phrase "that will be done," he repeats it 3 times, and then the dream fades. Brother André took his perpetual vows on February 2nd, 1874, at the age of 29. He was then designated as doorman of the new Notre-Dame College located on Côte-des-Neiges in Montreal. Here is a sentence he said about this assignment, demonstrating his great humor. "My superiors kicked me out, and I stayed there for 40 years. Don't think that being a doorman was an easy task. He was also a gardener, responsible for the maintenance of passageways and visiting rooms, and a shoemaker, tailor, hairdresser, commission agent, and a supervisor. Last to bed, he is also the first to rise. He is dedication personified. He refuses nothing. And when he doesn't have enough time, he finishes at night what he couldn't do during the day. You might think that this life of work made him sad, but it was quite the opposite. Those who meet him always find him in a good mood. Brother André never misses an opportunity to joke and sometimes even makes jokes and puns. This is why he was appreciated by the vast majority, teachers and students. We will now discuss the miraculous healings that took place through him. No one knows precisely when all this started, since Brother André was very discreet. In any case, the first attested miracle occurred on a brother of the congregation named Alderic. The latter had a knee injury which had become infected and degenerated. Brother André told him not to worry about it anymore, and the healing took place the next day. Then he healed many students, treated fevers, toothaches, and other injuries. All this eventually became known, and more patients went to Notre-Dame College to meet his brother, capable of prodigies. Among the visitors, some entrust their illness to his prayers, others invite him to visit them at home. The religious prays with them. He gives them a medal of Saint Joseph. We know that he had a particular devotion to Mary's husband. And I will describe to you this famous means which he used to cure many sick people. There was a statue of Saint Joseph at the college, and Brother André placed at his feet a small container containing oil which he consecrated to this saint and left it there for a while. This could also be done in another way, and the oil was taken from a lamp which burned in front of the statue. Then he advised suffering people to rub it with confidence and the greatest faith. To those who could not travel, he suggested doing the same at home with a medal of Saint Joseph in the absence of a statue. Consecrated oil could work miracles. But as Brother André repeated, faith is essential for the oil to act. Depending on the patient, he suggested that these frictions last for hours, and they had to be repeated several days in a row. A considerable number of witnesses will say they have been healed or relieved by this practice. Brother André acted according to a logic that we cannot understand. He always wanted to accomplish God's will, and sometimes he healed sick people without their knowledge from a distance, without them even being aware. André constantly calls himself the instrument of Saint Joseph. He refuses to be congratulated or rewarded for these healings. When we try to flatter or glorify him, he replies, "It is the good God and Saint Joseph who can heal you and not me. I will pray to Saint Joseph for you." Brother André, always faithful to his principles, does not seek to make known what he does, but he does not hide it either, and his hierarchy is perfectly aware. However, its reputation becomes such that the number of patients presented to the college continues to increase, and this becomes problematic. There are fears of the risk of contagion, and parents of students are complaining. So the leaders of the college decided to prohibit Brother André from receiving sick people at school. He understands and accepts the news without flinching. From now on, he goes to a tram shelter located in front of the college, and there meets those who want to see him. At first, the tram company was reluctant to see these gatherings, but faced with the influx of paying passengers, it quickly pretended not to see anything. The fame of Brother André ensures the company good profitability on the line to Snowdon. André, however, wishes for a place that allows greater devotion to Saint Joseph. So he goes up to Mount Royal, which is a little further away opposite the college, and places a statue there so that everyone can pray. Of course, with the increasing number of patients, it is necessary to arrange the place. And Brother André wants an oratory to be built there, except it's expensive and no one allows it. Many years will then pass where Brother André will tirelessly request the approval of his hierarchy for the construction of an oratory dedicated to Saint Joseph. He eventually obtained authorization to build a chapel. The management of the college and the Archbishop of Montreal, however, specified that the costs incurred will be the responsibility of the applicants. Thanks to donations offered spontaneously in money or in kind, for example statues, vases, liturgical vestments, a bell, etc., the land was acquired and the sanctuary was inaugurated on October 16, 1904. Of course, it is a small chapel, but for Brother André, then aged 59, it was a great success. However, the crowds grew larger and larger, and the growing influx of pilgrims became such that the dimensions of the chapel had to be increased 4 times from 1908 to 1912. Finally, a basilica project was put in place. It will begin in 1924 and end in 1967. It is the 3rd largest oratory in the world. In mid-July 1909, the authorities of Notre Dame College took over the administration of the oratory, of which Brother André henceforth became the guardian, thus freeing him finally from his role as doorman. Do not think that everything is rosy from Brother André. Despite the miracles and the countless healings, there is no shortage of detractors, especially among doctors and in presbyteries. How many times he is taken to task called an old fool, frotteux, greasy, journalists, sometimes write incriminating articles full of sarcasm. Brother André, who suffers greatly from these misunderstandings, cries, but he remains faithful to his mission. Moreover, regarding this beautiful mission, I now suggest that you discover some testimonies of healings, so that you can realize what could happen. As we saw before, Brother André used to give hope to the students and encourage them. He made friends with many college students and used to pray with them quite often. One day a former student came to see Brother André. "Do you remember me? When I was little you took me to the mountain to pray to Saint Joseph." "Of course I remember you. How are you doing?" "I'm not well. I had an accident and the doctors want to cut off my leg because of gangrene. I came here thanks to a small invalid's car pushed by my father. I told myself that you, Brother André, could heal me." "Me? No, definitely not, but Saint Joseph certainly." By the way, you can sell your invalid car. It will no longer be of any use to you." Brother André takes him to a separate room and asks him to wait and pray until evening. André then returns and begins to rub the poor boy's leg with the medal of Saint Joseph while praying. And there, before the patient's stunned eyes, the leg, which was all black and swollen, takes on a natural appearance. The young boy gets up and walks. The doctors who examined him later would not understand. They decided against amputating him because his leg was no longer infected at all and was completely healthy. Sometimes Brother André healed from a distance without him intervening in any way. When he was a doorman, he always had a kind word for the parents who came to visit the students. One day, he saw a man enter whose gait and dark gaze betrayed serious concerns. He then addresses him. "How are you, dear sir?" The man barely looks at him and says, "What does it matter to you?" Brother André said to him, smiling, "But what a bad character." "Oh, I'm sorry I spoke to you like that. But, I'm concerned about my wife. She hasn't left her bed for years, and the doctors have just told me that they won't be able to do anything for her, and that she is doomed." Brother André, moved by the words of this gentleman, then reflects for a moment. Then he looks at the man and says, "I don't think she's that sick. Besides, she is waiting for you to give her news of the children. By the way, I forgot to tell you, she is completely healed." The man looks at Brother André, not knowing what to think. Yet he returns home with a growing hope that he does not understand. As soon as he crosses the threshold of his house, he is speechless. His wife is there standing in front of him. "But what happened?" "I was in bed and then I heard a voice saying to me, 'You are cured. Get up.' I immediately asked the nurse to help me. I was able to walk without difficulty. I feel restored. It's such a joy." The husband, questioning his wife, realized that her healing had taken place precisely at the time of his discussion with Brother André. And here is one of the most incredible miracles which has been witnessed by many witnesses. As I told you earlier, a large oratory dedicated to Saint Joseph was started on Montreal. And during its construction, a worker was seriously injured. His legs were literally crushed and only resembled a pile of pulpit. Upon hearing the news of this accident, Brother André went to the site. He found the poor man screaming in pain. Next to him was a doctor who had been called urgently. He recommended immediately amputating the poor man because there was nothing else to do. Brother André looked at the doctor and said calmly, "This worker worked for Saint Joseph, so Saint Joseph will take care of him." The doctor knew Brother André and he admitted that he could cure a cold or a fever, but here, the man's legs were mush. He had to be realistic. There was no question of prayer or rubbing oil. "Listen, my brother, Saint Joseph will not be able to do anything about it. We must hurry if we want to save this man." But with the greatest calm, Brother André went to get a medal from Saint Joseph. He passed it gently over the worker's legs. Blood began to flow in abundance. Then the muscles and bones seemed to take shape again. The skin healed, and the man stood and walked. To the great amazement of the entire assembly present at that moment. Subsequently, Brother André needed a chaplain to provide daily masses at the Mount Royal Chapel. He reported it to the superiors of his order, but the response was negative. No one was available for this task. André then said that there was indeed Father Adolphe Clément. It's not possible, André. This priest is losing his sight and is only able to read very large print." However, as Brother André insisted, Father Clément was sent to him. "My dear brother, I am very honored by your trust, but as it has been explained to you, my eyesight is degenerating. It is impossible for me to help you." "Don't worry," André replied. "I promise you through Saint Joseph that from tomorrow you will be able to read as you should, and thus you will be able to say Mass daily." And to his great surprise, when he woke up the next day, Father Clément could read clearly and thus brought all his help to Brother André. At the end of 1936, Brother André was in New York to request a donation from the billionaire Rockefeller to complete the construction of the basilica. He already feels that the end is approaching. Feeling unwell, he wanted to return to Montreal. On December 28th, he was taken to Notre-Dame de l'Espérance Hospital in Saint-Laurent. And on the evening of January 5th, suffering overcame him. On Wednesday, January 6, 1937, at midnight 55, Brother André took his last breath at the age of 91. The news of Brother André's death spread like wildfire. In the United States, around 30 newspapers covered his death. There are no fewer than 860 articles about it. People come from everywhere to pay homage to Brother André. In the United States, special trains arrive from Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Many even make the trip by plane, like this pilgrim from San Francisco, whose son was said to have been healed by Brother André. A New York millionaire, for his part, left for Montreal every morning and returned home every evening by plane for 8 days, even after the funeral. He took 4 or 5 people with him each time. Immediately after his death, a mold was applied to his face in order to preserve the imprint. Doctors also extract his heart, which will be kept posthumously. The first 2 days, more than 500 firefighters and 500 police officers took turns to ensure order in the crypt where the body of Brother André was exposed in the burning chapel. His body will be placed a few years later in a black marble tomb within the St. Joseph Basilica, while his heart, kept separately in the same building, will be the subject of devotions. Brother André was canonized on October 17, 2010 by Pope Benedict XVI in Rome. To finish, I will simply quote a sentence from Saint André Bessette, who said, "When I am dead, I will be returned to heaven. I'm going to be much closer to the good Lord than I am now. I will have more power to help you." Remember his devotion to Saint Joseph and the sanctified oil he used. Also remember that without faith, everything is in vain. Nowadays we are told everywhere that there is no more hope. A large majority laments from morning to evening. Don't forget what Jesus told us in Matthew. If you had faith like a mustard seed, nothing will be impossible for you. I hope you liked this video. Remember that many similar stories are available in the book At the Heart of Miraculous Healings. If you want to help me share this video, give a like. It's half a second for you and it supports weeks of work. I wish you the best.